Well, let's start with the biggest story of the day, a moment the world was waiting for. The peace deal between US and Iran has been formally signed. First up, let's show you the visuals. One of Trump signing the peace deal in France on the sidelines of the G7 summit, and other one of Iranian president signing and holding up the pages with his and Trump's signature. This is the biggest turning point and a crucial moment between the two countries. Both the sides have said that deal has come into effect. So that would mean that now the Strait of Hormuz would open and the naval blockade would also be removed. And although it has been finalized remotely, reports indicated that a formal ceremonial signing involving senior delegation of both the countries is still expected on Friday in Switzerland. On that, let me get you more perspective and go across to my colleague Mayank, who's been tracking all the details. Mayank, now there is a clarity on the formal ceremonial signing ceremony that will take place tomorrow in Switzerland, and senior delegation will be present for this event. Take us through what can be expected in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, Akansha, it's really very important, and the ripple effect will be felt immediately. Even it started yesterday or day before yesterday itself, when the talks of such kind of an MoU had started, and we saw that reflecting into the kind of the prices of the Brent crude oil, Akansha. But having said that, there are so many other effects which are still due and which will be felt in due course of time, and it is not only for the world. For Asia, specifically for India also, the things will be positive. Now, let's come back to the specificity actually. See, I mean, since 28th of Feb, there had been major operations which were conducted on Iran, and Iran was firing its ballistic missiles, drones and all up to Israel. And there were destructions that side also. So it is going to be significant from that perspective, because Middle East is also facing the kind of operations which are taking place. Iran was also firing on the bases which are in Middle East, which were US bases in Middle East. Strait of Hormuz had come to a standstill. So that was affecting in the multiple sectors, which included agriculture, which included energy, then construction, and that had led to a appreciation in the cost of living also. So this is how the things are shaping. But specifically, that the MoU talks of Strait of Hormuz. MoU also talks of the nuclear, enriched nuclear uranium. It also talks of entry of IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. It also talks of how the things will be panning out after 60 days, or once defreezing of the assets will be done, how the reconstruction also is being talked about in this MoU, which is almost $300 billion, how things will shape up in that regard. And the approaches, see, the most important point I need to highlight is actually about Lebanon. So there's a clarity as far as this MoU is concerned. In that, it is clear that all kind of operations will be stopped, and that includes operations on Lebanon. So for that, we need to understand how Israel is going to take this agreement.
Absolutely.
As
because at this point in time, Israel is awfully quiet on this. Stay on with us, Bank. I'll come back to you once again. Let me go across to Times Now managing editor Zaka Jacob. Good morning to you. Peace deal between US and Iran that has been signed. How significant is this, and what does the 14-point MoU entail?
Well, it's hugely important. It finally brings an end to the war between Iran and the United States and Israel. For the last 3 months, that region has been battered. The economies of that region have been battered. The whole world is suffering because of high oil prices and the Strait of Hormuz being shut. So the most important thing, the clause in this 14-point, is the fact that the Strait of Hormuz will open free of charge right away for the next 60 days. So, for example, India has about 13 ships, 13 commercial tankers that are currently stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. So you have a 60-day window now whereby ships of all countries, flagged with different countries, they will all be allowed to now go back to their home destinations free of charge for the next 60 days. US and Iran have also vowed that there will be no future military action. The war will end in all fronts, including in Lebanon. And I think that's important because, again, we've seen the differences between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to the question of Lebanon. So this agreement explicitly says that all fronts the war will end, including in Lebanon. A final agreement will be negotiated on the nuclear question, on the war reparations question. All of that will be negotiated in the next 60 days. The U.S. will also lift its naval blockade right away. and thereby facilitate the movement of ships. Iran will guarantee that for the next 2 months, all ships will be allowed free of charge to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And after 60 days, like I've been saying, and Abbas Arakchi had mentioned this, that they will come up with some kind of a service charge in coordination with Oman, a 50-50 kind of an arrangement where Oman gets a certain degree of money and Iran gets a certain amount of money for every ship that transpasses the Strait of Hormuz. Also, one other big thing, which Trump, of course, had taken a grave exception to, was the $300 billion reconstruction package. That is very much part of this 14-point agreement. He had, lashed out against it, saying it's fake news and so on. I suspect that there will be some domestic politics around this, and there will be some pushback from the U.S. Congress on this. Also, as far as the nuclear question is concerned, Iran will say explicitly that it will not pursue a nuclear weapon, and that all the enriched stockpiles will be resolved under the IAEA. There will be no new sanctions, no new American troop deployments. Iran, most importantly, gets to resume its export of crude oil. I remember from about 2015-16 onwards, Iran had been heavily sanctioned by the United Nations, led, of course, by the US. And Iran was not able to legitimately sell a lot of its crude. Even a country like India had to stop buying oil from Iran almost overnight because of the fact that its oil had been sanctioned. Now Iran gets an economic lifeline if it can resume selling crude to the rest of the world legitimately in a legal way. Then it gives them a huge source of revenue, and this will, of course, take huge pressure off its economy. Remember, its economy has been doing very badly in the last few years. There have been protests from time to time because of this, but now Iran gets a chance to once again legitimately access its biggest source of revenue, which is oil exports. And as far as the Iranian frozen assets are concerned, they will be released or unfrozen in a phased manner. I'm given to understand that half of the unfreezing will happen now, and the remaining half will happen over the course of the next 60 days. The final agreement will be ratified by the UN Security Council, and therefore the UN Security Council's stamp of approval will be there for this final agreement as well. And yes, Trump and Masoud Pezeshkian, who's the Iranian president, signed this digitally. Trump was at the Palace of Versailles, close to Paris, last evening. He had dinner with Emmanuel Macron and his wife, Brigitte Macron, and both him and Masoud Pezeshkian of Iran signed this declaration digitally. There will still be a formal signing ceremony on Friday, is what we're given to understand. We're still not sure who will travel down for that from the US side and from the Iranian side. But for now, the US president and the Iranian president have digitally signed what is now being formally called the Islamabad Peace Declaration.
So all eyes will be on the, in fact, the formal ceremonial event that will take place in Switzerland tomorrow is what we're learning. Stay on with us, Zaka. I'll come back to you once again. Let's listen in to what Trump said after the deal signing.
Mr. President, please, just one question for French TV and the RM deal. Just one question, please.
You signed the deal?
You signed the deal?
The MoU? It's signed. You signed? You signed it?
Mr. President, please, just one question for French TV and the RM deal. Just one question, please.
You signed the deal?
You signed the deal?
The MoU? It's signed. You signed? You signed it? You signed it.
So coming back to you, Zaka, on this, in fact, you've been speaking to a lot of experts there. So going into this war, Donald Trump had several objectives in mind. He wanted Iran to have no nukes, change a regime, etc. And now that the peace deal has been signed, have those objectives been achieved? What are experts that you've been speaking to saying on that?
No, not at all. In fact, none of those objectives have been achieved. In fact, the nuclear question, other than just one line saying that Iran will not pursue a nuclear weapon, Iran is not making any solid commitments as far as the nuclear question is concerned, that it will completely cap its enrichment program or that it will hand over the stockpile to the US or any other third country. It does say that the stockpile will be dismantled as per the IAEA inspectors and oversight. But we'll have to wait to see. We were expecting this to happen, but Iran has not complied with it. So on the nuclear question, clearly, other than this pro forma statement, Iran has not conceded much at all. As far as the Strait of Hormuz question is concerned, I think it's completely changed now, because while it says that for the next 60 days there will not be any tolls or there will not be any service charges or fees, after 60 days, Iran will get back, in consultation with Oman, some kind of a new arrangement. A service fee will be charged to all ships that transpass the Strait of Hormuz. Again, that was not the case more than 3 months ago, before this war started. And of course, on the question of regime change, again, one Khamenei has replaced another Khamenei. The son is now the supreme leader. The father got eliminated. But as far as the political leadership is concerned, Pezeshkian, who's seen as the more reformist, from the more reformist stable in the Iranian political leadership, he's the one who signed the Iranian agreement. He was the president before this war started, and he continues to be the president after this war started. And he was the one, in fact, who signed that digitally from Tehran, along with Donald Trump, who signed this agreement from the Palace of Versailles before departing from France and heading back to the US. So, none of the objectives that Trump had laid out before the war started have been achieved. Now, how he will spin this to the American people, how he will make it look like a win for him and his Republican Party. There will be a lot of pushback domestically in the US, particularly on this $300 billion package. Remember, Trump has this whole, obsession about saying, in fact, even yesterday he said that Obama had given, $1 billion in cash to Iran. But in this particular agreement, at least the draft seems to suggest that America will help with $300 billion in reconstruction efforts in Iran. So, there will be domestic pushback to it. I'm not sure how he will be able to spin that to the American audience. But having said that, I think the overall sentiment right now, whether it is in France, where we are, or across the border in Switzerland, where the signing ceremony will happen on Friday, and around the world, including, I'm sure, in New Delhi, is a sense of relief, a sense of satisfaction, a sense that finally this war, it should have never happened in the first place, but now it's finally coming to an end. And finally we can get back to a degree of normalcy, both in the Strait of Hormuz as well as in the wider region.
Absolutely. And then there is also the question of Israel, because the Israeli Prime Minister, he has been awfully quiet. It remains to be seen what he has to say on the deal signing between the two countries. Thank you so much, Zaka, as well as Mayank, for connecting with us and putting that into perspective. Deal between US and Iran that has been formally signed, a key turning point in the war in West Asia. With this, a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.